Have I been lying to you this entire time? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel. MFJJ here with podiumarcher.com, and let me start by saying, no, I have not been lying to you this whole time. So recently, in the past couple of days, there's been an awful lot of posts and comments about, well, you're testing your bows wrong, and you're testing them at IBO, and they're supposed to be ATA, or you're testing them at ATA, and they're supposed to be IBO. And it's actually caused a pretty big ruckus in the industry in general. You guys can figure out where that came from originally. It's not my place to say, but what you're running into here is bow manufacturers themselves haven't even been marking things correctly on their website for how they actually test bows. So I had to make a bunch of phone calls, clarify a bunch of things so I can give you the right information of what's really happening here. This all started back in the day when they originally tested speed bows from like the 90s, which, mind you kids, I was doing this in the 90s, it just wasn't on film. There were two ways to test a bow. There was IBO and AMO. Now, AMO was the Archery Manufacturers Organization. It was the standard of the industry of what they thought you should test a bow at, and it was at 9 grains a pound. So it was a 70-pound bow, a 540 grain arrow, and 30 inches. That was the original. The AMO, or the Archery Manufacturers Organization, became the Archery Trade Association, hence ATA. Now, they have now changed this to what the IBO standard used to be, which is why this is all confusing and why you're getting a bunch of really weird information. ATA now says that in order to test a bow accurately, there's a couple of parameters you have to follow. 1, 30-inch draw length. 2, 70 pounds. 3, 5 grains per pound, 350 grain arrow. You are allowed a given amount of scale variance and a given amount of length variance. Those are 0.2 pounds, plus or minus, hence 69.8 to 70.2. So if you watch one of my videos and go, well, you're not exactly 70 pounds, I'm testing within the parameters of which they say. First. Secondly, according to their specs, you have to be within a 1/4 inch of draw length. Hence why I am measuring the physical draw length of every bow for you so you can see what the draw length is. And why is that important? Well, that's important because if I say my bow is 30 inches and it's actually 30.5 inches, you're probably getting 7 or 8 feet faster because of that length. That is not an accurate reflection of how fast your bow is. So according to ATA, you can be within a 1/4 of an inch. So your bow can measure 30.25 and they're still going to sign off on it. Now, part of the confusion to this, I'm assuming, and why some manufacturers' websites say IBO, not ATA, is I'm willing to bet you must be a member of the Archery Trade Association from a manufacturer's standpoint to be able to get that rating and be able to put that on your website. And maybe some of those manufacturers aren't paying to be a member of this organization, which the Archery Trade Show every year in January is this organization putting that on. So that's probably why some of them say that and not that. However, every bow manufacturer I have tested this year, I contacted them directly and asked, how did you test your bow? And the answer I got from every one of them, not most of them, every one of them, we tested our bows at 70 pounds, 30 inches, and a 350 grain arrow, unless the bow does not go to 30 inches. If it goes to 29 inches max, they tested it at 29. If it goes to 28 inches max, they tested it at 28. And if the bow doesn't go to 70 pounds, i.e. 60-pound peak bows, they tested it at 60 pounds with a 300 grain arrow, which is why in videos when I only have a 60-pound bow available, I tested at 300 grains. Because like it or not, kids, that's probably going to give you almost the exact same speed. And when Matthews gets all the modules for me, I will make a video testing that bow with different 5-pound increment modules and 25 grain lighter arrows the entire way so you can see that it is the same speed or within a foot of variance. So that is where this is coming from and why all of a sudden you're getting this contradictory information. Every bow I tested was tested underneath the same parameters that the bow manufacturer tests it at. Now, why am I getting so much slower speeds? Which is probably where a lot of these comments are coming from. Well, number one, if you're a bow manufacturer and you're testing speeds, you only have to make it produce it. at some point to say you got it, right? So let's say, not going to name names of any bow manufacturers, but let's say you have 6 chronographs in your building and one of them happens to read 4 feet faster than the other 5. Well, you're going to test on that one to get the best result. Let's say you're trying to get the best speed out of your bow possible. If you put a center rest flipper rest on your bow and shoot it with that instead of a whisker biscuit or a fall away arrow rest, it will shoot faster because there's less resistance. So that's one way they do it. Another way is a chronograph that happens to be faster than the next. Another thing that they will do, now I'm not saying who or what have you, but if you were to build your bow, everything exactly the same, but take 4 strands out of your bowstring and shoot it through the chronograph, it's going to go faster because your string weighs less. Now your production bows aren't going to be that way, but you technically got the speed. If you put the bow in a machine and draw it back to full draw with the machine, and the second it hits full draw, it goes off, it will give you a faster speed. These are all ways that they get bows to go faster in a chronograph. They're not a way you can reproduce it effectively because you can't use the bow that way. Oh, one other thing that they will frequently do, they will chrony speed test an arrow with no fletchings on it, period, 0. Because that arrow, if you have a 350 grain arrow with 3 fletches on it and a 350 grain arrow with 0 fletchings on it, the shaft will go faster. There's less resistance. So those are all things they do to try to produce an extra 5 to 15 feet a second over what you're getting in a real test. So there's a reason that I go through and test these things the way I do and use the exact same equipment every time. It's a fair equivalent. It's not a wedged advantage to one person or another, okay? So I've actually wanted to make this video for a while, but since this little controversial thing started popping up in my comments a lot, I felt it was probably time to set the record straight and tell you exactly how they are testing it. Now, I cannot speak for Martin, Athens, APA, Expedition, probably not thinking of other brands in there as well that I did not test because I don't get sent the bows. And every bow I tested was in that manner, 70 pounds, 350 grains, 30 inches, and that's exactly how they tested them. So all you people commenting down below about, oh, you're doing it wrong, you're testing it wrong, this should hopefully clarify that for you and you can stop putting information down there that's not accurate. So comment on this video down below, let me know what you think, and all the other videos, of course. And I really appreciate the response we've gotten this year. It's been phenomenal. I just wanted to clarify that. That's where the speed variance is coming from, and most of them are starting to address it, and I've gotten phone calls about the fact that they're going to address it. So, have a great day.